Hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel, a place where all future millionaires come to get inspired. If you see me for the first time, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and be part of this positive YouTube family. If you've subscribed to this channel already, thank you very much, and we really appreciate. We all must have heard or would have known someone that has passed or maybe is suffering with cancer. After getting these staggering figures from the BBC, I thought I'd share my thoughts, especially with all the black men in our community.
10 to 8. Now, we're going to speak in a moment to the actor Colin McFarlane, who has revealed he's being treated for prostate cancer 9 months after his brother was diagnosed.
The Dark Knight star says he began going for regular checkups about being told of the importance of regular testing.
Now, this comes as new research shows a large number of black men are unaware that their ethnicity puts them at double the risk of the disease. We've got some fascinating figures for you.
Yeah, the numbers are amazing, actually. According to the charity Prostate Cancer UK, 1 in 4 black men will develop the disease over their lifetime.
The cancer is the most common in men, and there are 52,000 new cases diagnosed every year.
Research by the charity also reveals that more than half of black men don't know where the prostate is, and 70% don't know that ethnicity is a major risk factor. Well, Colin joins us now, along with Chiara De Bias from Prostate Cancer UK. Morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Colin. How are you?
I'm good. Technically, actually, fortunately, I'm not being treated. So a friend of mine, John Shrapnel, an actor, he was diagnosed in 2004, and he said to me back then, you need to take responsibility for prostate cancer. There's no screening program, so you need to go and get blood tests from your doctor. So I've been doing that for about 8 years, and then about 3 years ago, they said, your PSA number is a little high. Yeah, it has to be under 3.5 for the men out there. So if it gets a bit above that, they kind of go, might have to look at something. I said, do you want to do anything? I said, no, we'll just keep an eye on it. And then about a year and a half later, they said, we might need to do an MRI just to have a look because the number's gone a bit higher. So we did the MRI. They went, little area of concern. There's a 30% chance it might be cancer. And you kind of go, okay, what does that mean? He said, well, let's just do the biopsy and we'll have a look. So they did a biopsy, they took some samples. Unfortunately, he said, we couldn't have caught it any earlier. You've been caught really early, so you don't require treatment. You don't have any symptoms. So all we will do is do a PSA blood test, simple blood test once every 3 months, and we'll do an MRI once a year. And I said, what's the likelihood of treatment? He said, at this point, you're probably 10 to 15 years away from any treatment, and you may not need it at all. So basically to the men out there listening today, I just want to say, please do what I did and do your regular blood tests, because if you do a PSA test every year, you'll be as lucky as I've been in that you catch it early, and that's the key. And of course, there are no symptoms in the early stages. So of course, a lot of men, I've been doing my own personal research, just talking to men and asking them what they know. A lot of them don't have any awareness of this, and they assume, I'll go to the doctor when I've got pain. I don't really want to bother the doctor, so I'll wait till something's hurting. Well, sadly, with prostate cancer, when you have no symptoms, that's the best chance of actually curing it and treating it. So if you wait till you've got pain, which is often back pain, that actually means it's probably started to spread, and that's not good. So men over 50, if you're white, men over 45, if you're black, you need to go and get a simple PSA blood test. But what's put a lot of men off is that there's a lot of messaging around the digital rectal examination, which is the finger up the bum, which most men will run the other way from, but also I found that GPs weren't that keen on doing it. And so then what you find is that men don't go to the doctor at all. And then what I've found recently, since I've been diagnosed and telling lots of men about it, they've been to GPs and GPs have said, you don't need a blood test. And I'm like, what? We're doing a campaign about this. You absolutely do. And so I said to my urology specialist at St. Bart's, why are GPs turning men away? And they said, because from about 10 years ago, PSA used to be on its own, not entirely reliable. But he said what they don't realise is the game has changed, but in a good way for men, in that the MRI technology has improved so much that MRI in tandem with a PSA blood test is incredibly accurate. And then if they're still not sure, you have the biopsy. So the 3-step approach is now, he said that started about 10 years ago. Some GPs are in the old way of thinking of, PSAs aren't reliable. They are reliable. when used in tandem with the other.
So,
things.
Kiara, if somebody is watching this morning, they're over the age of 50 and a bloke says, I never have one of these tests, I think I should get a test, and they go to their GP and say, I'd like a test, what are their chances of getting a test?
Well, all men in the UK are eligible for a free PSA blood test. But actually, the big message today is to go to the Prostate Cancer UK website to do the risk checker. Because as Colin's just beautifully outlined, there are some quirks about prostate cancer, the fact that it starts without symptoms. But today, the really important message is for black men over 45, because as you said from this survey, 80% of the black men that we spoke to didn't realise that their ethnicity put them in that incredibly high-risk category. And then when they realised that, 2/3 of them, quite understandably, assumed that they'd be invited to have that PSA blood test. So the really important message is what we want to do is separate fact from fiction. We want to make it really simple for men to understand what their risk is. And we've talked about black men over 45, but also importantly, men with a family history of prostate cancer are 2.5 times more likely to get prostate cancer as well. So these are the men that we really want to do the risk checker. It's very simple. It just takes 30 seconds to do. And importantly, we'll then give you all the information you need about the PSA blood test. Because again, as Colin said, it's not perfect. It's not a test for prostate cancer, but it is very much the first step in that prostate cancer pathway so that we can rule something in, rule it out. And again, we don't be worrying about the rectal examinations. These days, men are far more likely to go straight for
and also,
an MRI scan.
As my GP, as my specialist was saying, he does seminars for GPs to educate them, to say, don't turn men away. So he's having to run seminars, so that tells you how prevalent this is. And the other message I wanted just to convey to people listening is that because men are so reluctant to go to the doctor, this is a campaign for Father's Day. There's a great message for fathers out there. If they have daughters, if you have a daughter, be aware that if you have prostate cancer and you have a daughter, she is at higher risk of ovarian and breast cancer. So if men won't do it for themselves, do it for their daughters. That's really important.
And another thing that I think is quite important is, you talk about actually it can be really difficult to get a test. And with any type of cancer screening, there is a huge level of anxiety, isn't there, involved in it. But what you're describing is something that shouldn't be scary to go through.
No. It's a simple blood test, 30 seconds. And it's a flag. It's the only flag we've really got. Now, of course, women, as you know only too well, have this journey with breast cancer screening, cervical cancer screening. So there is an assumption by a lot of men that they will be invited for a screening if they're at risk. You won't be. It's really down to the man. So all men listening out there need to know, as we've said before, over 50, get checked if you're white, over 45 if you're black. And as we were just saying about the risk checker, if you don't want to go straight to the doctor, you just anonymously go to the website, you put in your age, your family history of cancer, your ethnicity, and information will come up and advise you to then go to your doctor if necessary.
Are we going to get a screening programme, a national screening programme at some point? Is that on the horizon?
They're working.
We hope so. That's the ultimate aim, of course. And at Prostate Cancer UK, we strongly believe that there is enough evidence to support a screening programme for black men over 45
Absolutely.
and for men with a family history. And in fact, they're investigating that and looking at the research this year. So we hope that we're at least one step closer to getting a screening programme for these very high-risk men. But it really does come down to understanding that men, that they have a prostate, that it can get cancer, and that it's all about the risk of getting it.
1 in 4 black men. Hearing these figures, it's very staggering and it is very frightening, but it is the reality. What is even more worrying from the report is the percentage of black men who do not know where their prostate is. It's important that if you don't know where your prostate is, please try to find out. Your prostate is between your bladder and your rectum. So if you put your finger in your anus where the poo come out, then it's going to go right in and you can feel your prostate. Your prostate, which I've asked few men and they said to me they thought that it was your testicles, but they're definitely not your testicles. The testicles are the 2 hanging balls in between the men's leg, but the prostate is inside. So it's something that you can always check. Don't be shy. It's your own health. And if you think that there's anything painful or you try to bring out pool with blood on it, please seek for help immediately. That's exactly where your prostate is. And if I'm not demonstrating it well, please let us also know in the comment section so we can educate one another on the most easy and simple terms so that they'll be able to identify the symptoms of cancer earlier and probably never need treatment or get treated. We've had people who've passed with cancer, we have people who are still suffering with cancer, and we have people who maybe are still to develop cancer, but the major focus here is those who are still to develop cancer, who are not even aware, or those who already have and they are not aware that they are suffering with cancer without showing any symptoms. As you've heard the recommendations from the BBC program, it is highly recommended and highly important that you test yourself. You have to book some blood tests. If you're in the West, you book the blood tests with your GP or general practice to go and test to ensure that you do not have any cancer symptoms which are not already showing on your system. And if you're already suffering and or struggling with cancer, we continue to pray and support you via through maybe Cancer Research UK or any other charitable organization, or directly, whichever way we can support and or give our widow's mite to keep the smile, being it financially, morally, spiritually. Remember that you also have a big community which is right behind you and will be supporting you. The target here is mainly men who do not already have cancer and they are not showing any symptoms of having cancer. It's important for you to do routine blood tests annually as suggested or as recommended from the BBC program, which you've just seen, just to ensure that you are in a safe position. If it's caught early, as is rightly said, you may not even need any treatment eventually, and or maybe you may be maintained and treatment can only come 15 years down the line, if you listen to what the guy was saying. So it's very important that you do your blood test. I can't emphasize this less. It's very, very important that you do regular blood tests. I'm not ruling out the women in our community. If you have any knots in your breast or you have any sort of lumps anywhere that have pop up is unusual. We have all sort of different cancers, or you start noticing blood in your stool, or you have, you start noticing any changes in your system that you think that it's abnormal. Please do a test. Do not also rule out doing routine blood tests, because cancer can get everyone. It's not just the black men, but the prevalence is very, very high among the black men or men from the Bami community. So this is something that you should really take very serious and try to protect yourself. As we all know, health is life and health is your biggest wealth that you have in this world. No matter how much money, how much riches that you have, if you're not in good health, then there is always a problem. So try to create time out of your busy schedule to do a test. It's just once a year. Out of all the days in the year, probably just once a year. And if there's any indication for anything, you'll be caught earlier and you will be getting treatment or may never require any treatment, so that you know very well and have that assurance that you are in good health and good spirit at all time. Because when you are in good health, even your moral is boosted, especially when you know you are really in good health. I pray for the souls of all who have departed, taken away in this world by the deadly disease cancer, that may their gentle soul rest in peace. And for anyone who is suffering with the disease, again, as I said, there's a big community here behind you, and you'll never feel alone. Always call or give anyone a call, just so you can wear a smile on your face. It is a very long, daunting journey, but we are all here to support one another. Thank you guys. Thank you again for always watching my videos. I remain your humble boy here, Terry Foch from the Root. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Share, and let's educate one another to ensure that we eradicate cancer in our community. One more death, one more loved one one more parent, it is very painful. And that is what we don't want to see again. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you again on the next one. Thank you and goodbye.